Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook network. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard, fresh from the dentist, not a hockey-related injury, Mr. at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera. Of course, Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Morais down there as well. No dental work for the two of us today.
Yeah, you know what? You know when like a hockey player just gets hit in the face and they're like, oh, he might be out for a couple of weeks, and then they just put the guard over his face, like the guard attachment on his mouth. That's what we're doing today. We're ready to roll.
There you go.
Rocking the bubble. Love it.
There might be a little bit of drool, so don't be alarmed for that.
Maybe you're going for the Connor Bedard look. He's got that on right now. That's all.
Yeah.
It's the in thing for hockey players right now. But a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk, tonight's schedule. We're going to talk Stanley Cup Champion odds. We're going to talk Eastern Conference wildcard picture. The Flyers have a new goalie, Frozen 4. Certainly a lot of good things to get to here. Playoffs are going to begin, April 20th, I believe there was announced, same night as the NBA playoffs. So make sure you're around that Saturday night if you're a sports fan. And we'll be talking to Stanley Cup playoff picture right up until the Stanley Cup playoffs and previewing the series and all that good stuff here on Total Hockey Now. Don't forget, give us a rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff on all those platforms you see down there. So why don't we get to the 8-game Tuesday in the NHL tonight? What do we got on the schedule here? We got a mixed bag of matchups. We got Capitals, Sabres. Capitals obviously right in the thick of the Eastern wildcard hunt, and for the 3 spot in the Metro. Florida coming off a loss to Toronto last night. They're in Montreal. Pittsburgh's at New Jersey. The Blackhawks are at the Islanders, and the Islanders are in a must-win. Boston at Nashville. A nice little clash of East-West there. A little tune-up before those teams go to the playoffs. Ottawa, Minnesota, Anaheim, Calgary, and then Vancouver, Vegas, and probably the matchup of the night there. Which of those are you looking forward to the most? Any picks, anything like that at all when you look at the schedule tonight?
I will be watching the Montreal Canadiens. That's, just by default here. Carter Verhaeghe is out of the lineup. He is week to week. Matthew Tkachuk is ill. Probably a late night partying in Toronto. Had to go all the way down crossover here. Maybe he also had I don't think he had a late night. Maybe he contracted something between periods. I don't know, but it gives Montreal a little bit of hope before they end up losing, I guess, 3-1 or something like that. Something of the sorts here. I am excited. I don't know who's going to let me down first. The New Jersey Devils goaltending or Pittsburgh in general. I don't know which one is worse there. The same thing for the New York Islanders. I'm excited for them to just completely, I don't know, whatever is happening.
They have to win that game. Have to win that game at home against the Blackhawks. You need those 2 points. Sure.
And I mean, Ilya Sorokin is he's lost his last 5. He's looked horrendous. I continue to believe that the Washington Capitals are frauds, but they have done nothing but perform well since I have called them out. So, I mean, I don't know anymore what to do with them. They may just win because the other teams in that division with them are bigger frauds. That's how I see this. That whole Metro division is a fraud. Washington is just the least fraud, and maybe a little late night Vancouver and Vegas. That should be a lot of fun. I might fall asleep to that.
I got to say, I do think if the Capitals plus money on the money line tonight at 110, I kind of like that play because the Capitals, their only losses have been to good teams lately, and they've been taking care of business against teams they should be beating. And Buffalo's a team they should be beating. So I like them tonight. Like I said, the Islanders are a must win. Boston, Nashville will be a good little, tune up against each other. And then, like you said, Vancouver, Vegas is a nice West Coast, matinee. Well, West Coast primetime matchup, we'll say.
Yeah. Boston, Nashville, and Vancouver, Vegas have the most implications to me. Boston still playing for the President's Cup. They're only, I think, 3 points out. Which I think the Rangers are at 104, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, at this stage. I mean, the President's Trophy, it's like the kiss of death. So, you want it to say, hey, we were the best. But then again, it's like, do you really want it?
But we also talked last week about seeding, right? And how important seeding was. So that's an important part of that Eastern Conference because Carolina and Boston are kind of tied right now. Florida is only 2 points behind. And then when you look at Nashville, they're at 90 points and right there connected with Vegas, who's going to take on Vancouver. So that has some importance as well. And we talked about can this improbable run from Nashville run out? And they lost 2 in a row so far. So I don't know if they're coming back down to earth or it's just a little blip in the radar, but just trying to keep aware of what's going on with them there.
Well, yep, they've got a couple of weeks to sort it out before they get to the playoffs there. But one thing that did happen, last night was Ivan Fedotov makes his debut with the Philadelphia Flyers, and it's going to be a tall task for him to help the Flyers. I'm sorry, I got to do that right there. Sorry. I mean, if I'm going to put that caption there, I got to do it. But yeah, I mean, he looked pretty good. He comes in the second period in relief. Tortorella, he does what he does, gets a little impatient, and he comes in, he stops 19-21, loses 4-3. In overtime, looked pretty good. A lot of times the goalie has the advantage the first time out because they're, as much as players can look at tape and stuff like that, it's different shooting against the guy for the first time. And, we don't know the details of how he had to come over from Russia, but nonetheless, it was a process that involved him going and living north of the Arctic Circle to do his military service in Russia for a year or so. So, he's here now, and, maybe this is, just what the Flyers need to get a boost to get into the playoffs.
I mean, first off, this man is 6'7". He is the tallest goalie in the NHL. That, they were showed a picture of him standing in front of the net, and it looks like one of those minor hockey. The kids are 4 and 5, and you get those small little mini hockey nets. That's what it looked like. Homie is massive. This guy is huge, and I mean, there didn't look like there was much space for players. If you're trying to shoot on a guy who's 6'7", there's no corners. That the homie's on his knees and he's still blocking the whole net. So, I mean, if he can grow in, I guess, to his size and his technique, his technique is obviously going to need a little bit of work here because, again, he's 6'7". Give the man a chance here. But look, the Flyers need some goaltending stability. According to John Tortorella, the Flyers need a little bit of everything. But I mean, his post game rant once again, just that's what I watched. I could care less about the Philadelphia Flyers and whatever they do on the ice. But when they don't play well, John Tortorella does not hide how he feels about his team. So he definitely let them know that they were not very good. And look, I mean, Samuel Eriksson has been fine, but he's not the one who's going to move the needle one way or another. I think it's a better idea to let Fedotov play. See what we get out of him.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One thing about Tortorella is we know he's in touch with his emotions. That has never been a problem. We know where he stands. You can't ever deny that. Before he comes over, he was looking at his record here, in 23, 24, 2.37 goals against, average 914 save percentage. Was part of the Gagarin Cup Championship team in 2021-22. Was also a part of the 2022 Beijing Olympics team that did not send any of the NHL players over there. From what my understanding is, he's obviously not in that Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky tier, but he's in the tier of Russian goalies after that. So a little bit of hope there for the Flyers.
Now, where did the Flyers see them? Where does Tortorella see them, currently? Because they are only 1 point ahead of Washington for the 8th spot. Detroit's right behind them. The Islanders are coming up strong behind them as well. What are they is this the route that they're just going to stick with as they try to, get that one of those final spots?
I mean, at this point, they were dealt the unexpected absence of Carter Hart. So this is the best way they can go about dealing with it. And I think, if that doesn't happen, obviously that's a whole other conversation for what happened off the ice. But, if Carter Hart's still there and the season doesn't have that massive speed bump, we'll call it, I think the Flyers are probably way more securely into that 3 spot. And we're talking just about the Capitals as a wild card team. But I think Tortorella's upset because they've had every opportunity to just lock up the 3 and they can't do it. They just don't do it. They've been there all year. It's been their spot all year. They've sat in the 3 spot in the Metro, and now all of a sudden they got the Capitals right on their heels. Islanders to a lesser extent. So I understand his frustration.
Yeah, it's like nobody wants that 3 spot. It's like a battle of who doesn't want it first, and it's right there. Like the team that gets it doesn't even have to be like elite; they just have to be decent, and they'll get the spot. And that's exactly what the Washington Capitals are doing. They are just decent. They're just going out there, winning a couple of games, getting some good goaltending, and hey, they were going to lock up a 3 spot and get swept in 4. But they made it.
That's the thing. Like whoever wins that 3 spot, you're going to face either Carolina or the Rangers. And in either instance, I think that's a 5-game series if they're lucky. So, I mean, maybe, not that you don't want to win the 3 spot, but I think when you look at the landscape and you look at who you're going to face in the first round, not to say that, you can't go out and pull off an upset, but it's a tall task there again, to go back to that pun, for the Flyers and for the Caps to pull off that kind of upset in the first round. Now, before we move on and talk some Stanley Cup Championship odds, the Frozen Four teams are set. Boston College versus Michigan and BU versus Denver. Some of the stalwarts of college hockey going to settle it out. Can't wait for Thursday, April 11th and Saturday, April 13th. Of course, they do skip over next weekend, so they don't try to go head-to-head with the Final Four because that would just be silly. Defending champions Quinnipiac lost in overtime to top favorite Boston College. The Leafs did sign Jake Quillen from the Quinnipiac Bobcats. It's had an excellent tournament. It was all over the ice. 2 goals against BC. I got 3 of my 4 of the ones right. The Michigan was the one I got wrong. Nonetheless, one thing that was fun to watch was that Boston College power play. Like they are like the Edmonton Oilers power play in terms of college hockey when they're firing on all cylinders. You got Ryan Leonard, who, if you're a Caps fan, you got to be super excited about him. Gabe Perreault from the Rangers got thrown out of a game due to a hit-to-head, so he didn't get to do much. Cutter Gauthier, 2 goals and 3 assists there. Will Smith had 2 assists, and, of course, Jacob Fowler in net, the apple of Chris's eye. You got Macklin Celebrini, who continues to impress with BU. Youngest player in college hockey, expected to be the top overall pick in the summer. 32 goals, 32 assists in 37 games this year, and he had a goal and assist in their opening round win over RIT, and then 3 assists in the win over Minnesota. So the pressure is nothing to this 17-year-old kid on a national stage. Very excited for the matchups, and BU Denver could go either way, but I think BC might be a little too much for Michigan there.
I think this is a bit like I don't care much about college hockey just because I live north of the border and it's just not a thing that I follow closely. But it has been, I have been paying closer attention. Obviously, there's impact for the Montreal Canadiens here. There's lots of great players, but these players are having really great tournaments. Like Fowler has now set like the record for most wins by an NCAA goalie. Lane Hudson has looked great as well. I mean, the kid is just moving the puck around. Like you said, that power play from Boston is just like, it's a cheat code. Like they were down 2-0 at one point, and I was like, this could be it. And then they just come storming back, and everybody holds their ground. And it's just, there's so many elite players on a team. Like it's like, how do you slow that down? Kind of, you're just watching the onslaught coming and coming and coming and coming. It has been fun to watch. I will definitely tune in because now I'm hooked here. Now that you have my attention, and I want to see just how this plays out.
And I'm not trying to be like, as Mr. Jared Moore would say on Ripper, for like a please like my sport plea, but like, and I understand you got the first 2 rounds of the tournament going on when you got baseball opening their season, Sweet 16 and Elite 8 for men's and women's. You got football, like there's a lot of other things, but like the tournament really was good this year. Like I didn't really care about the NHL for a few days. I was watching the college hockey, and it was fantastic. So looking forward to the Frozen Four in a couple of weeks there, and should have some excellent matchups there. Let's talk a little Stanley Cup champion odds here. That's what we're here to do today. Let's get it up on the screen there. And yes, I did the Penguins and the Devils and the Blues and the Islanders. They're still kind of in the race there to a degree. So I have to at least include them. But nonetheless, you can see on the screen there, the favorites are the Panthers and the Hurricanes at plus 650 with the Avalanche slightly behind them at plus 700. And then you can kind of go down the list there. So anything there that immediately jumps out at you when you look at those numbers or how they kind of shape up there for the Stanley Cup champion odds?
I think it's like watching the Edmonton Oilers be where they are, considering how they started the year, is definitely, something to live by there. I think there's still some good value in that middle tier between like the Dallas Stars, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Vancouver Canucks, I'll throw the Winnipeg Jets in there just because they exist. But like, there's some good value there. I think the Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes are in a good spot. They are, two of the better teams in the league. Are they invincible? I don't believe so. So I don't think those odds are really great. Colorado is just a force to be reckoned with as long as they play at home. When they go on the road, it seems like they forget what happens. I can't really buy the Boston Bruins because I continue to look at that roster and I don't understand. The Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously, for reasons we already know. And I mean, those long shot odds, I think the only two I would consider would be the Tampa Bay Lightning, because the Tampa Bay Lightning have just been there, done that kind of thing, and the LA Kings. Like, the LA Kings have a team, like, when they're healthy, when they get their goaltending, it's kind of like all these little question marks to them. It's like, if they can do this, then they'll be fine. But their path for them to get there, they have to go through Vegas or they have to go through Edmonton at some point. And I don't know if they're a better team overall than those two teams right now. Like, I don't know if they can really slow them down. So, I mean, the good value here would definitely be the Vancouver Canucks. I think, yes, maybe once Thatcher Demko comes back, team will settle in. Vegas is just waiting for the salary cap to be inexistent so that they can activate everybody and they can all come back and live healthy lifestyles. But the Dallas Stars are obviously, good value there. They're in a good spot. They may have a tough path because they got to play an elite team at some point. But, I mean, 10-1 seems like a pretty good odd for a team that's just really solid all around.
You know where I'm going, right? Plus 15,000, New Jersey Devils. Let's
Yeah, of
go.
course.
Come on. No,
Jake Allen's going to win the
Jake
Conn Smythe for you.
Jake Allen doing his thing. No, on the real, and I'm not trying to just blow smoke up Adams behind, but the Rangers at plus 900, I kind of like. They have a good roster. And they have a coach that's been to the Stanley Cup in Pierre Laviolette. And I just like that combination. I like what he's done with the team and how he's kind of just transformed them. And they went through that little blip in January, but they've seemed to come out strong. They're playing the top teams very well and beating them. So I do like the Rangers and where they're at. The Dallas Stars at plus 1,000 too. Like Chris mentioned, Golden Knights plus 1,200. I mean, you can't go wrong, especially when Mark Stone will probably make his return at the beginning of the playoffs, or at least if they make it to the Cup Finals. Tampa Bay Lightning plus 1,600. I can never not put a little sprinkle on Tampa Bay. And if I'm going to take a chance, plus 2,200 on Nashville. If they can, play consistently like they have over the last month or two, I think that's not a terrible, I'll throw a couple of dollars that way,
I'm going to start from like the cutoff and work my way up here. So for me, the cutoff starts above the Predators. I don't know. They had that run and it's great. And maybe, whoever they play in the first round, it's a closer than expected 5 or 6 game series, but I can't look at them as a Stanley Cup team. Now, Tampa, on the other hand, if you think about it like this, like, okay, they're going to play either Boston, Florida, or Toronto in the first round. Now, they're capable of beating any of those teams, and they'll get the leftover of the other two, who's going to be worse for wear after facing the other one. So if Tampa gets out of the first round, that one is very intriguing to me because they have guys that have been there before. And, the one more hurrah storyline that I bought heavily and mistakenly into for the Penguins this year, the Lightning all of a sudden look like they could maybe have that coming into the playoffs as an underdog, which is something they don't usually do. Winnipeg, and they've kind of, been a little sputtery lately. It's gotten a little bit better, but I don't love that. Vancouver, I think it's good odds at plus 1,400. Vegas, do it now because, like you said, once all these guys come off long-term IR, those are not going to be plus 1,200 anymore. That is going to drop once all these guys get healthy again. So if you like Vegas, and I think that's a good play, that's not bad. Boston, because we talked about the Atlantic, it's, they got to survive that. Dallas kind of to a similar thing with the Central. My Rangers. I feel like I can't talk nice about them because I feel like I'm going to jinx something. I'm going to upset something. I'm going to I'm just trying to enjoy the ride right now. And yes, they look really good. I mean, when you got Larry David shouting out Artemi Panarin on the most recent episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, saying, wow, watching the bread man with the puck. Isn't that something the way he controls it? I mean, that's how the Rangers are going to another level here. But, like Chris pointed out, Edmonton, very impressive to be where they are considering, when we were talking about them back in the fall. I'm curious though, with the Rangers being, the plus, the top record in the league right now, why they're 900 and Carolina's 650. I mean, maybe because it's Carolina's been there before and they ran into a super hot Sergei Bobrovsky last year. So maybe that factors into it there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, for me, the ones I'm looking at would probably be Tampa and Vegas on the longer end. And then, I'll say the Rangers, and then on the shorter end. And then, I kind of like whoever comes out of the Metro between the Rangers and the Hurricanes there. That would be my pick for one of the two East teams if you were going to go with the shorter end.
That's fair. I still think the Stanley Cup's going to go to the West because that's just where I feel like the better teams are. It may be easier for the Eastern Conference team to get there just because I feel like going through the Metro is kind of like the easy path-ish. But I mean, there are lots of good Western Conference teams there that can do some damage, and it's unfortunate that some of them have to meet elite competition right out of the gate in the first round. Like somebody's going to play Philadelphia or Washington in the first round, and then like we may have to watch the Colorado Avalanche and the Winnipeg Jets go at it in the first round. And you're like, okay, well, how is that fair?
Yeah, I mean the Metropolitan Division, which for many years was undisputably the toughest division in hockey. Now, when you look at it, it's like not right now, not right now. And I think it's that second round series that it's looking like it's going to be Rangers Hurricanes in the second round. I think that's going to have a big determination there on the East. Got one guy in the chat here. We got a comment there, Joey Wright. One of the all-time good guys in the fantasy football industry, checking in there. Love Joey, made me laugh all the time. Part of that front yard fantasy crew and other things he's doing there. Good to see Joey chiming in. We didn't talk about Florida, the odds-on favorite here at 650 really yet. They haven't shown really maybe the last few games haven't been going well, but are we still considering them the all-around favorites at this point, just based on the old eyeball test?
I think so. At least I have them as the odds-on favorite. I had them for a while now, but like you said, they haven't really done anything to blow you away.
Of recently, I mean, they up until about a week or two ago, and then they kind of have settled back down a little.
Maybe they're just resting and getting themselves ready for the first round of the playoffs.
They're consistent, right? They're a team that's got a lot of depth up front. They can beat you in different ways. They don't have to go out there and score 7-8 goals a night. They can beat you via that grind style. They got a lot of guys who are big and heavy and just kind of their defense is built well. If you get good goaltending out of Sergei Bobrovsky, you should be just fine. Like they're an overall good team. I think maybe a lot of people kind of overlook them a little bit or don't give them the respect that they deserve. But as of today, they are the best team in the state of Florida.
Which team, before we move on and talk Eastern Conference wildcard picture, when you look at that right side, which of those teams is best capable of really just ruining one of the teams on the left's path to the Stanley Cup there? I mean, I'll let you guys have the floor first. I know who I'm picking.
I mean, I guess it would be Nashville.
Okay. Based on
they're the team that's demonstrated, they've demonstrated that they can go on this run, right? Tampa Bay's kind of got a little bit of holes in their game. Like they're not as good on the road, and that's kind of something that you got to be. You got to be good on the road. You got to go into another barn and win a hockey game, especially if you are going to finish where you are. You're not going to have home ice advantage, so you have to go out on the road and win games, and that's not something they've been doing consistently this year. Los Angeles is the exact opposite. They seem like they can't win at home, and there's just too many. Like their goaltending's kind of been not there, hasn't been as consistent. Their offense is good. Like there's some depth there, but this Nashville team is getting it done, and that's to me that's all that matters. They have, I think, a really good goalie. Their defense is able to keep up. Their forward group is not built to be elite skill, but they can definitely play with the best. And, it's kind of their by committee system, right? They're going to grind you out there. They're going to try to work for their goals, garbage stuff in close. So if I had to take somebody on that side who's going to do it, to me, it would be Nashville. Because, I mean, let's face it, from Washington down, we don't care.
Yeah.
So then it's the other three, and I think Nashville has demonstrated that they can.
Yeah, it's either Nashville or Tampa. And as the way that the playoffs look right now, Tampa would play Boston in the first round. I don't know if that's a great matchup for them. So I guess I would go Nashville against Vancouver, especially we don't know the status of Demko yet and where he's at and how healthy he's going to be by the time the playoffs roll around.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge X factor there. Now, I won't pick them as a Stanley Cup champion pick at plus 6,000, but you look at the Red Wings and as streaky as they've been, yeah, they lost 4 in a row before they got off the schneid and won on Monday night against Tampa Bay. That stretch included Nashville, a Washington team playing much better, Carolina, and Florida. After this game, they got coming up against the Rangers on Friday. They finish out with Buffalo, Washington, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Montreal. If they get on a run there, and we've seen when they get hot, they could screw up somebody in the first round. They're going to be that wild card 2 team. You know, you'd hate to see a Rangers or a Hurricanes team fall to a team like the Red Wings, it's just they can go into the playoffs with serious momentum there. After that Ranger game, there's no reason they can't take all 6 of those games, or at least 5 of those 6, and get an easy 10 points there. So they could potentially louse up some brackets there, or on the for the upper seeds and some championship bets there. So there we go. Again, love talking Stanley Cup championship odds. We'll keep an eye on them as the next couple of weeks come along here on Total Hockey Now. Now we like to do if the playoffs began today, and we're going to focus on the Eastern Conference a little bit here. So the matchups, let's get those going up on the screen. So you got Boston, Tampa, Florida, Toronto, Rangers, Capitals, Carolina, Philly in the East. And then when you look out west, you're going to have, if I finally get my Edmonton Vegas matchup that I've been really wanting for a few weeks, it's finally there. Dallas, Los Angeles, a new one, Colorado, Winnipeg, and then of course wrap up there with Vancouver, Nashville. So looking at those series, first things first, got a few new ones there. Which one would you want to watch the most? Which one would you look forward to the most?
I would probably watch Colorado, Winnipeg. I feel like that would be another good matchup here. You got Colorado's high flying offense, Winnipeg overall a good team with a better goalie. That would be fun. Nashville, just because I was talking about it, like they can do something. So if they do, I'd like to see that happen. All those games in the West though are just like they're must see TV. Like even Dallas, Los Angeles, great. Edmonton, Vegas. Like, can you imagine just the amount of skill on the ice at one time? It's just it's wonderful. There's so like those matchups that they started today. It's just there's so much good hockey.
Everything that I would pick would be out of the West. I think Edmonton versus Vegas is probably my top matchup, and I wouldn't be shocked if Vegas gives Edmonton fits through out of 7-game series, or even beating them for one, because Edmonton's going to have all this. If they can get past another round, if they could get to the second, they're going to have all that. The same thing that Toronto goes through, Edmonton is also going through as well. So if they can't get past Vegas in the first round, that's going to be an interesting watch up there in Canada.
I've already mentioned Vegas, Edmonton. I would borderline clear my schedule to watch those games like at night and make sure, like, that's how excited I'd be for that series. And Dallas, LA maybe doesn't look like a sexy matchup on paper, and man, would that be a slow, boring defensive grind kind of game. But that's actually a bad matchup for Dallas. So LA could maybe make noise in that kind of series there. And like Chris said, Colorado, Winnipeg be great. Vancouver, Nashville, I think you'd have a fun series. But again, we got to know what's going on with Demko, because no Demko, and all of a sudden you got to give Nashville a little bit more of a chance versus whether if they have him or not. Now we're going to talk Eastern Conference here because we want to focus on that wild card picture. And let's take a look at the standings there. As you can see, Boston and Florida jockeying for the top of the Atlantic. Same for the Rangers and the Hurricanes there, with Toronto pretty much firmly locked into that number 3 spot. I don't see Tampa catching them with the amount of time left. And Philly, as we discussed earlier, barely hanging on to that 3 spot, with the Capitals hanging on there. And then we go down and we look at the wild card. You got Tampa and Washington currently sitting in the top 2 spots, with Detroit and the Islanders are the 2 teams that are probably could maybe get there and steal it. Pittsburgh, points wise, they're alive. It's not happening, and same for the Devils. So there you go. We looked at the Capitals. They do have the game in hand there. I talked about the Red Wings earlier. They do have one less game in hand, so that hurts them a little bit. Regulation wins and overtime wins. In that scenario, Washington would have a slight edge there. So nice that they went to that for the tiebreaker there too. No matter who finishes in that 2 spot there, are we really giving them a chance to maybe pull off an upset of one of the top teams? I know I said earlier, if Detroit comes in hot, it's a whole other ball game. But these whoever they would see would be a very tall task in the first round.
All those teams, it's so not exciting to watch these teams in the East. Like, there's so many good matchups in the West, and I feel like I'm here just trying to find the game that I want to watch in the East and be like, okay, what could be enjoyable? And
Part of Toronto.
Well, yeah, but I'm just here to watch Toronto lose. Like,
that's right.
Like, that's that's just in here. Toronto would have who? Like Florida? Okay. So, if Florida's winning the Stanley Cup or has the shortest odds to get there, that means by default the Leafs lose, right? If maths. I guess if I had to watch one, it would be the Florida and Toronto series. I mean, the New York Rangers and Washington, I don't think that would be a long series. Carolina, Philadelphia would not be long either. Boston, Tampa Bay would be pretty good hockey, though. I feel like that would be good. Watching David Pastrnak on one side, Nikita Kucherov on the other, some high-end skill there. I could get behind that, but I don't see Detroit making this run just because they're supposed to and they haven't yet. Even if they have an easy schedule, it doesn't mean they're going to go out there and win hockey games. The Islanders are a mess. I just don't know. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. It's also that I don't want to have to watch that style of hockey. I don't want to watch the Washington Capitals either, but here we are, right? So we got to pick something. So, like, Detroit should get there if they do what they're supposed to do, and I would live with that. Like, I would enjoy watching it. It would be good for the 4 or 5 games that would be there. But I feel like Washington's just going to do it because that's just who they are now.
Here's Detroit's schedule that I was talking about earlier. They got a few days off here to maybe reset and get right. Friday, and then they got the Rangers at home on Friday. Versus Buffalo, versus Washington, at Pittsburgh and Toronto, and then they close with a home against Montreal. So, I mean, it's really there for the taking for them when you go look at that there. Let's get the Capitals schedule up here and take a look at them and see what's going on with that. So, when you look, who do you have taking that second spot right now?
I got to see the Caps. Are you talking about the second spot in
the wild card 2 spot?
Second wild cards. I got to see this Capitals.
So we got at Buffalo versus Pittsburgh, at Carolina. I mean, they got a pretty cushy schedule here too. I mean, Carolina, Tampa, Boston are 3 not easy games, but the rest of those, that game against Detroit could be big there, right there. That could be a winner determines their own kind of fate down the stretch there. So Washington kind of has pretty much of an easy schedule too. Do we want to look at the Islanders next? We want to sort that out first, and then we'll look at the Flyers. Look at the Islanders, and then we scroll down here. So they got Chicago, Columbus, Nashville. Right? I mean, again, not a hard schedule. I mean, you got the Rangers twice. That's not going to help you. You got Nashville in there, so that's not great. And then finally, let's look at the Flyers schedule here. All right, and they have the disadvantage of not as many games remain, but a 4-game road trip there that takes them through 3 winnable games, and then to the Garden for the Rangers, and then they close against New Jersey, and then that game Tuesday 16th, Philly, Washington. The NHL is hoping that is what they would love is Detroit to come in and snag that wild card too, and then you turn that game into a play-in game for the 3 spot in the Metro. That is what the NHL is hoping for.
I'm gonna say that the Flyers spot is a lock to me. Looking at this schedule. I think their spot is a lock to me, especially if this goalie, can give them a little bit of momentum and a little bit of extra juice. Let's see if Tortorella's move actually works out. The other 2, that's a really tough one. I'm just gonna go with the Caps just based on experience and Ovi maybe showing up at the end of the season here. and doing some things. I don't know if I have any faith in Detroit like making it this year. They had their opportunity. They didn't grasp it for as long as they could. And yeah, I'm going to stick with Washington and Florida and those two. Right, it was Philly. It was. I'm sorry,
Washington. It would be Washington and Philly would be your two picks
Washington
there.
and Philly. Yes, those two.
You know, and if you're wondering how Ovechkin keeps playing at the elite level, walk into the rink with a Subway sandwich and flaming hot Cheetos. I mean, that is the diet of champions. It was Wheaties when I was growing up, but now I guess Subway sandwiches and some hot Cheetos.
That's going to be my game day meal on Thursday. We're in a must-win game, so we can extend our series and head to the next round. I'm heading to the local Subways, picking up whatever. I would like to know if Alex has a 6-inch or a 12-inch. I'm gonna assume it's like a 12. And usually I do the cookies, but obviously he's having the the Cheetos and stuff, so I got to do the bag of chips as well.
Yeah, but now they got like the foot long. I don't know if they do that by you, but by us, there's a foot long cookie. There's a foot long.
Yeah, they have the foot long cookie. I feel like that's excessive.
That's news to me.
That's
Yeah.
excessive.
I had no idea that a foot long cookie. I haven't been in a Subway and I can't tell you how long.
Yeah,
Foot
they have a
long
foot
cookie and a foot long pretzel.
I'd be interested in the foot long pretzel, like if I was at like a baseball game or something or a sporting event. Now a foot long pretzel is hitting the spot, a little cup of mustard or cheese. Now we're talking.
Foot long cookie is like, I don't know. So it's a little much for me, but I mean,
Yeah.
look, Alex Ovechkin looks like he's 56. Like that man is just aging poorly, but he refuses to go away, and he will break the record for most goals scored, and he's going to do it on the back of a Subway sponsorship when he's done playing hockey.
I think Anthony makes a good point that when you look at that Caps schedule, though, that is kind of rough down the stretch. He's got the Caps and the Flyers, and I'm going to go Flyers by default have to take the 3 in this scenario, and I'm going to say Detroit snags that wild card too, just because of the schedule they have in front of them, and it's there for the taking. But
that April 9th game is going to be very interesting to see whether they are neck and neck. If the other team's a few points ahead, but that is a big swing game right there.
Look at those ticket prices, by the way. I mean, Ottawa does not surprise me. Carolina makes sense. They're a team going to the playoffs late in the season. Everybody wants to go. Same for Buffalo. Detroit's about right. Tampa's about right. Yeah, I mean, that Philly game, the ticket prices will go up if that means anything. But yeah, I'd love to go to a hockey game for like $26. That'd be nice.
Isn't it cheaper at San Jose?
Yeah, can't you not get $26 tickets to start with in San Jose? I don't understand.
I mean, I like I'm a little spoiled. I like to sit downstairs now. I'll sit I'll sit towards the front of the upper bowl, but I like to sit downstairs.
Because parking in Montreal, not in the Bell Center, is more than $26. So
I would have thought those tickets in San Jose were like $10 front row right now at this moment in time.
I mean, you also got to remember where you are. You're in the heart of Silicon Valley, so I mean that automatically is going to put your ticket prices up a little bit, and I mean, it's still a nice arena, but yeah, nobody was going. I'm curious what it's going to look like at San Jose next year, although maybe we'll see what the roster makeup is like. Maybe they'll have some of the more young kids there ready to play. But yeah, and we didn't really talk much about the Islanders here. We're writing them off. I mean, they have a game in hand on Detroit. We're not giving them any consideration at this point.
No, they're 3-6-1. They're a disaster of a hockey team. I don't enjoy the Islanders. Just like their overall play and everything, they're so inconsistent, not fun to watch. I don't care for them. I would prefer if they not made the playoffs. That would be better.
You don't think Patrick Waugh might blow up at some point? Like, I mean, we talk, obviously Tortorella is the king of like rants and meltdowns, but I mean, Patrick Waugh is not one to hide his emotions either.
Sure, but I mean, what's he going to get mad at? Look at that team. Like he's come in and they haven't really got that much better. Like this is a mid team. Like they're not really good. You can go watch them against Columbus. Tickets starting at $9. You don't even have to break a 20.
But that makes sense in Columbus. I mean, that's still pathetically low.
I did once go watch hockey in Columbus. I sat, 3 rows from the ice, bought 2 tickets for $200 total, $100 each. Great time. Nothing to do in Columbus, though. Not a great city to have fun in, but great arena. There was a Tim Hortons, like in the arena as well. Was very happy about that.
Did they fire the cannon that game?
They did, yes. Montreal ended up winning, but I was prepared for the cannon. Like I knew what was happening, so I was like very well positioned for it. Like it was coming, but it was definitely an experience to live.
Is it as loud as I've never been to a game in Columbus? So is that cannon as loud as I would think it would be inside an arena?
It's hard to miss. It's hard,
Gotcha.
real hard to miss.
Gotcha.
It's real hard to miss. It was a good time though. It was good. Columbus, nice city. Just don't stay there for a whole week. You'll run out of ideas.
Look, the Islanders are only in the position that they're in because neither the Capitals, Detroit, and even Philly have not really grabbed hold of those final two spots. And like if the Devils would have gotten a goalie in January, if Pittsburgh, would have played, like the Islanders would not be even an afterthought at this point in time. And they have been able to stay in because these other teams have not done their part in, finishing off those final playoff spots.
All right, so you heard it here first. Total Hockey Now, we're writing off the Islanders, and but we've got a mixed bag on who the two of the three are going to be for the other spots. Get a chance to review those in a couple of weeks and see how things look with each of these teams' progress down the stretch here. It's always fun to look at like team schedules and try and figure that stuff out. I mean, no, it's old hat, but it's always fun to look at that stuff and figure it out. So there we go. Now, if we close every show here with sweater weather, and with the Ivan Fedotov coming over from the KHL, we figured let's make this a KHL edition here. So on the left, you got the Kunlun Red Star, the China-based KHL franchise. And then on the right, I'm going to try my best to pronounce this correctly. Amur Khabarovsk, I think is the way to pronounce it. They got their orange and black Bengals Tigers looking team there. And then you got the Dragons on the left. So we're looking at both of those jerseys. Which one would you guys purchase if you were able to purchase one and only one?
Easy for me here. I would purchase the Kunlun Red Star jersey. You got a red star with a dragon on it. What do you like? That's typical. That looks like a KHL jersey right there. Like there's a lot with that logo going on. It's fun. It's hip. It's a dragon. Like nothing wrong with the bear. I guess that's what it is, or lion.
Tiger.
There you go. Like nothing wrong with the tiger. Very, very, sports logo kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like a tiger head. Sure. I get it. Right. Nothing wrong with it. Very good jersey. I just feel like in this matchup, like, man, Red Star Dragon, that to me is good.
I do wish that the wording wasn't on there. If it was just the red star and the dragon,
or maybe just like an R in the star, something basic
something like that. Yeah, I think it's just too much. It's too much on there with the wording. But like Chris said, the star and the dragon I think is so freaking cool. Way cooler than the Cincinnati Bengals hockey affiliate team. Even looks like the Detroit Tigers as well. Logo. I don't know, maybe they just like copied and pasted the head and just took it from there. Nice jersey and all, but I think like football and baseball, when I see that tiger right there, I feel like I've seen that many times. I guess, you know what? I guess I'm going with the Red Star, even though it has the lettering in it. Something different, and haven't seen something like that before. But I would wish that they get rid of the lettering on there.
Now you walked yourself right into that after you like, oh no, I'm going to go that. And so it was nice to hear you kind of go through one to the other.
Yeah, it came right down to the wire. It was a back and forth battle for me, just like that last spot in the playoffs for some of these teams. So sometimes you just got to make that executive decision right on the spot. We'll go Kunlun Red Star.
As much as I mean, that is really a sharp jersey. There is nothing wrong with that. The colors, like you said, the logo may be a little too busy with the wording, like a KRS or just something like that, and the star would be good. I'm actually going to go with Amur here, and here's why. You don't see a lot of orange jerseys. Yes, I know Edmonton wore them for a little while, and yes, Philly's worn them forever. But as a Ranger fan, I cannot ever own a Flyer jersey. So this would be my chance to get an orange hockey jersey. And you were not mistaken about thinking about the Tigers and stuff like that, because there was a recent ESPN graphic where they were trying to use the Auburn Tigers in a graphic, and somebody mistakenly used that logo instead, thinking that was an Auburn Tiger logo. So there you go. And I know it's kind of like a little like generic-y tiger looking, but I love the stripes on that. It's a well laid out jersey. It's a nice shade of orange. I think I'd lean with that. You can wear it for Halloween. You know, it's got the Halloween colors. It's got a lot of purposes there. So I'm going to lean that way. I think the Red Star Kunlun text on the jersey kind of ruins it for me there on the left. But that is a sharp jersey, that red and yellow. Like if I had a men's league team or like a house league team that we needed to get red jerseys, that's a different logo, but that's what I would want to start with.
We're going to need some of these teams to start sponsoring this show and sending us some sample jerseys so we could sport them on the show. I think that would be perfect to be sporting some of these jerseys and rocking them. I thought that would be a nice little touch.
I don't know if we'll be getting any packages
Russian here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would trust a package from Russia right now. Maybe. I don't know. But, you know.
I just feel like
it doesn't have to be these two teams. It can, you know, we've gone through.
I feel like the Tiger one. I feel like I just feel like the logo is a stock image. If you just Google like Tiger stock image, you'll get the jersey. Like, you just plug it on your generic orange jersey, and there you go. I cannot, you know, find the dragon with the red star. I don't mind the words. I don't mind the words in the jerseys or stuff like that. That to me, I can live with. There's not much going on. It's like Dallas's old, you know, jersey where it says like stars and stuff like that. Like I can live with all of that. There's nothing wrong with it. But just the basic generic kind of, I don't know, animal in the middle, nothing going on with it. You're like, okay, it's good. It is good. The color pattern is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just this was a tough matchup.
Maybe a hockey puck in his mouth or something, just like holding a hockey puck, maybe a little bit different there.
We're thinking outside the box. Yeah. But they didn't have that in the stock image at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday when they were trying to get this jersey printed. They just
if I can go into Canva and create us a logo with the hockey puck, they can go in there and do that themselves as well. We could take that little puck right now and put it in there.
Or just copy the Sharks and just have the broken hockey stick in the mouth. I mean, it's been done, but it works.
Yeah,
it works. So what you're saying is that my wife could make the Amore jersey on her Cricut, is what you're saying. Her little craft machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if they need an extra jersey, I feel like you could get that printed pretty quick. Well, I feel like it wouldn't violate copyright rules. You know what I mean? That's the generic part of it. The Red Star, you know, dragon kind of logo look. I feel like that would get flagged. Like if you like later on YouTube, this is like that part's not going to get flagged. Nobody's looking at it going, yeah, you know what, that tiger head right there is a copyright infringement. We got to send them the royalties here. No, they'll just be like, oh, generic tiger head, gotcha.
Tiger.png. That's the file name for that one.
That's the one that you can get, the stock image there.
Now, this won't be the last KHL one because while going through some jerseys, I found some good ones. So we'll definitely do another KHL face-off next week here. But I try to make it so it's not like the three of us are like, oh, yeah, that one. So we had a nice little split today and a little back and forth. Like you said, it was a nice close matchup there. We love talking sweater weather here on Total Hockey.
It was nice to see Anthony work through that, you know, like he wasn't sure where he was going. I felt like you showed up at the line and you weren't sure what you wanted to order from Starbucks yet because you saw like a couple of things on the menu. And then you kind of like talked yourself through it and then made the choice as to what it was. It was nice.
You know what? I grabbed the one jersey, was about to go up to the cash register, then turned around, was like, do I want the other one? Then I bring them both up to the register. At the register, pick the final jersey, and there we go.
There you go. I mean, listen, we all do it at restaurants too. You know, you get there, you have your heart set on a specific plate, and then you hear like the specials, and you're like, oh, okay. All right. Now you're getting me to think about something, but I tend to stick with what I go in for. If I got a craving for something, man, that's what I want. But yeah.
I don't change my mind very often when I do that. When I'm set on going in with something, I just like, look, once I cross the blue line and I know I'm going, you know, forehand, backhand, like it's rare that you're going to change my mind once I'm there. I'm a little bit too predictable sometimes in hockey, and I get annoyed at the opposing goalies when they just show me no respect by they just, you know, challenging me too much. But I'm a very predictable person, so I don't change my mind once I've set on it.
I tend to go in like a restaurant. Or what I'll do is I'll have two items if I'm really torn, and then whatever just comes out of my mouth when the waitress looks to me and asks for my order. And then I know I'm getting what I want.
We know there is no decision when it comes to the bone-in, boneless. It's just bone. He's just going up there boneless. bam, slaps that
And
$10
you
bill
can
out
pair
there.
it with whatever you want. That's it. You can get the side of the boneless, get like 6 boneless instead of, whatever. It's like here, if you have a craving for like a poutine, it's fine. You can just upgrade your side to that. You don't have to have it as a whole meal. You can pair it with, whatever else you want. Why make a choice when you can have both?
Thank you for reminding me. I haven't had Wingstop in a while because now that's going to be on the menu here in the coming days. So thank you for that. This was very, for no other reason. This was a great show today.
I did have Wingstop, cheap plug for Wingstop, and hopefully they are sponsoring us soon. But I did have Wingstop. I did go with the flats this time around because I'm a huge flats guy. No disrespect to boneless wings, which every so often I switch back and forth. Like some days I'm craving the boneless, sometimes I'm craving the bone in, but it has to always be flats, no drumsticks. Lemon pepper, lemon garlic parmesan. Those are like my go-tos. Lemon pepper is my all-time favorite, though.
See, I don't mind flats, but I prefer drums. So we should go out and eat wings together because we could just divide and conquer, basically.
3 different kinds we're getting.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if Chris is sharing his boneless to get a bone-in wing with us.
Look, we'll get. There's nothing wrong with the bone with the bone in. They are very good. If I go somewhere, that's all they have, and that's what I'm craving. Fine, I'll eat it. I'm just saying that a boneless chicken wing is a chicken wing, and there are lots of great boneless wings that you can get with different types of either sauce or dry rubs.
More of a dry rub guy myself, but well, maybe when we get into the dog days of summer and we're just doing drafts, maybe we'll have like our power rankings of seasonings and dips and all that stuff. That's good summer content. Put that on the back burner.
Maybe we all have to order some and have it on show while we're drafting.
You don't have to convince me twice.
Here's the only thing: wings and drafting not really conducive because you get the hands and the mouse and the computer. So maybe after the draft, when we look back, we can eat the wings while we
maybe if there's like a game 7 of the Stanley Cup and we do a watch along or something like that. You can.
Now we're cooking with gas. That's a good idea. Now, plenty of hockey to talk about. Slapshot podcast. Chris Morais got you there if you ever want to check another one out. And then also Subway to Shea podcast is what Ant does. Not the best start to the Mets season, but nonetheless, the content is still top notch.
The content way above what the team's play is right now, and will always be, I assume.
I mean, you're not really setting a high bar if that's the bar, but nonetheless, you do achieve that every time. If I
have more confidence in my work than I feel like these players have on that roster right now.
And of course, you can catch me on Rip and Riff with at Mr. Jared Moore. We'll be live with you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Next week, next Saturday, April 13th, Upper Deck is doing National Hockey Card Day. So next week here on THN, we'll maybe crack open a hockey pack or two. We'll be doing all hockey next week. This week we got basketball and hockey for you as well. But
what are the rules on that?
Are the rules on
national hockey? Like, do you go do you get like a free pack? Like, what's that whole thing situation?
So if your local card shop is participating, you could go in. There's like a giveaway insert pack or something like that. It's basically a way to get people in the stores to buy other packs of cards. But hockey cards being enjoyed, and of course, I am going to go to my local shop at Papa J down in Rohnert Park, California. I will be there at some point on August 13th for sure.
I gotta find one.
Yeah, it is. If you follow the link online, they'll tell you if local shop is participating. So take a look at that. But that's it for this week's Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it, network here. Don't forget, give us a like, a subscribe, or a comment, a rating, anything. It helps us so much. Next week, we're going to be 1 week closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll talk more then. But for at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Morais, for at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard, and we'll be back with you next week here on THN.